I need you to knock some sense into me. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I don't know.
I enjoy listening to you. I don't always agree with everything.
All right, enough of this persiflage.
So, you want my question?
I'm certainly not going to get myself in trouble by telling you what to do.
That makes great sense. Gosh, that's good.
Did I overwhelm you with words and wisdom?
I've got 7 kids. I feel like I could call you every day.
What? Wait, you're telling me I'm wrong? Disconnect.
Yes, I am, Dr. Ray.
You just need to tune in to Dr. Ray, honey. He's got all the answers.
Am I right or am I right?
Probably.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Very, very nice to have you with me. Always remember, you are unique, just like everybody else. One of the greatest lines in the kind of a cartoon movie, The Incredibles, where this kid named Dash was very, very, very fast. That was his super talent. And his mother was trying to tell him, you can't use your super talent when you race at school because you're special. And then he said something like, well, why can't I be special? And she said, everybody is special. And then this little kid, one of the great lines of all time, if everybody is special, nobody is special. We're all big one special lump. Very nice to have you here. This is ePerson Monday. I had to do something to deal with a lot of the email that I get from both here on the radio program and the TV show Living Right with Dr. Ray. So I do my very best to get to them. Much of the time they'll ask me if I know of a therapist in an area or what I think of a book, or do I have a book for something that they're struggling with. But I'd say maybe 40, 50% of the time, it's usually a particular circumstance. So we generally reserve Monday to tackle those. Sorry. Oof. Sometimes my manly vocabulary just slips in there. Tackle. I can't say that now anymore. I can say something a little softer. We reserve ePerson Monday to address. I guess we could do that. It's got dress in it, so that's kind of sensitively feminine. To address questions. Although, as we will see as soon as I get to my first ePerson, I don't always get a good pat on the back for addressing the question. All right. Years and years and years ago, I was asked to do a talk on a Friday at about 4 o'clock. Of course, after school. I suggested to the event planner, first of all, Fridays are generally not good if you want to get people to simply come to a presentation. Fridays, Saturdays, people got a lot of stuff going on. I said also that 5 o'clock is an unusual time. Many people will come at 6:30 or 7 maybe, but 5 o'clock, smack in the middle of supper and all kinds of things. I said, I would suspect that you're not going to get the kind of crowd you want. Well, we had a crowd. If you call one person a crowd, yeah, one lady showed up. Though I did, I just went and sat down with her rather than give a presentation. I went and sat with her and we talked about her own situation. Did the best we could for an hour. Prior to this, I got into town in the afternoon, and this gentleman was a bright guy. He was a philosophy professor or some such thing. He majored in philosophy, had a PhD in philosophy. You know, philosophy's like one of those majors that kind of messes up your head for the rest of your life. I'm being facetious. And he gave me an example. We were talking about God's will, God's providence, that things can work out the way God would want them to work out, the way God would direct them, even though we have free will and he doesn't interfere with our free will. He lets us choose. And he gave me an analogy that I just thought was so perspicacious, so good, so insightful. He said, I'll quote him as best I remember. If I were to play Bobby Fischer, now at that time Bobby Fischer was the grandmaster chess player, the very pinnacle of the chess professionals. If I were to play Bobby Fischer, he said, I could make billions of potential moves. You could. I mean, maybe even more than billions. If you put together all the combinations of moves that you can make on a chessboard over, say, 10, 15, 20 moves. Just, it'd be billions. Maybe trillions. I don't know. The outcome is foreordained. I'm going to lose. Bobby Fischer will allow me to make any moves I wish to make. I can make any choice. This is my free will. I can put my queen where I want. I can put my rook where I want. I can open up with a pawn, 1 or 2 moves. Multiply that by 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, 25 moves. All of which Bobby Fischer can't control. I'm making the moves. The outcome is what Bobby Fischer is going to want. He will respond to my moves. And he will win the game. And I thought, that's an imperfect analogy, but if our Lord has a certain plan for the way the world is going to end up, the way things will ultimately work out, but yet you have all these people doing their own thing, he allows it. He says, you can do that. You can be evil. You can be good. You can do both. The combinations, permutations of your moves are almost limitless. And I will respond. I will make my moves. And in the end, it will turn out as I wish it to turn out. I never forgot that analogy. 20, 25 years ago. Pretty heady analogy the guy gave me. We were wrestling with free will and God's foreordained plans. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. I'll start off after the break with an e-person who, well, she chastised me. And that's okay. She's allowed to chastise me. But she said something interesting, and I thought, well, I'd like to comment on that. I'm Dr. Ray. Every so often we have to make this announcement from the EPA, the Environmental Psychological Association. This program has been actually targeted, again, kind of a rough word, for secondhand airwave healing, passive listening. Yeah. You may not be directly listening to this program, but if you have it on in the radio, on your car, something like that, or in the house even, and it drifts into other rooms where people are sitting, yeah, they could get better. It could get better, but you have to warn them. It's a secondhand passive listening. I got an email, e-person, from someone. This was way back. This was back in a couple months ago, 3 months ago. It was a situation, it was really kind of sad. It was very, very complex, convoluted, young adult daughter who moved from somewhat drifting, somewhat hostile, somewhat gender confusion, perhaps, but a whole bunch of other things going on, very, very complex. And Mom requested, she said, can you see her? Can you reach out to her? That was her request. Let's see at the bottom line here. Where is this here? Is there any way you can reach out to her, or did you already? All right. So then I responded, and I said to her that I addressed your question on an upcoming ePerson Monday. Now, this was a while back, so this is aired. And I said, Dear Mom, I won't be able to reach out to her individually because of so many requests that I receive. I will certainly pray for her. Now, that was my response after she wrote me, and I said that I addressed this question on an ePerson Monday. She wrote back, Thank you for your prayers, Dr. Ray. But I must admit that your answer below is not very helpful at this point. Okay, well, I can see that. I mean, obviously, it was just a very brief answer. I hope she listened to a much more detailed answer on ePerson Monday. I think she was just referring to the fact that I won't be able to reach out to her because of the requests that I receive, and I will certainly pray. Then this is what confused me. She said, if you knew that I was Jesus, would you make the same choice? In other words, my choice was I can't reach out to her individually, obviously, because first of all, I'm sure there are therapists in her home area. Secondly, because of the amount of requests that I get, and given, and I think I probably said this, given the enormous complexity of what Mom described regarding this young adult, that reaching out to her would have minimal impact. Minimal. I mean, I don't have the magic dust to make these complex, convoluted type situations straighten out after just talking to somebody for half an hour or an hour. Sounds like this would be something that would be longer term. And Mom did say that indeed this young lady was seeing a therapist, I think, if I recall correctly. So for certain I couldn't step in. But she must admit that my answer was not very helpful. Okay, I got that part. Let me see where we're at here with this gentleman. Okay, hello, Dr. Ray. I have a summish, to quote Dr. Zeus, questions looking for your advice regarding prayers, home, chores, schoolwork. All right. Prayers. Before school, we do 10 minutes of morning prayers. I expect all kids in the living room by 6:30 for 10 minutes morning prayer prior to 7:30 school bus. The oldest rarely stays in the living room the whole time. Is it wrong for us to pray while getting ready for school or making breakfast and lunches? Well, I wouldn't be the one to judge whether something like that is wrong. I would say this, I don't understand why the oldest just can simply leave. I don't know how the oldest is. A sense I get is that these are relatively still young kids. Maybe the oldest is 8, 9, 10, 11, and just walks out of family prayer. I personally wouldn't allow that. You can't force somebody to pray, but you can at least say this is what we do as a family, and this is important. And hopefully something will sink in. Now, what about praying while getting ready for school or making breakfast? Well, the problem with that is there's a lot of distractibility. You can do it. I mean, I sometimes try to pray my rosary as I'm walking somewhere or as I'm getting out of the car, but I immediately get distracted. I'm distracted enough as it is. It says evening. 20 minutes of night prayers and rosary. Okay, rosary usually takes 15 minutes or so. The kids are involved in sports, piano, different things, 3 to 4 nights of the week. I read that it is not good to have them involved in too many after-school activities. Sometimes we have to pray the rosary for the kids because they fall asleep. I've addressed this in my teen book, which I talk about you have to make a decision as a parent. You don't have to, but it would be wise. How much is this interfering with family life? How much are all these activities, if there are too many of them, or you have too many kids, and therefore you have 9 activities, how much is that taking away from family time? Do you have any time to be unstructured? Or is it just one activity to the next to the next? You got homework and you got stuff and they're falling asleep and clearly they're tired? So you got to weigh that. I think a daily family rosary is a beautiful thing. And that's one of the reasons we had 10 kids. So we could just have them do a decade. Although not unusually, I would get lost while we prayed the rosary. And I'd say, glory be, no, Dad. 5 daughters. The boys, no, they never corrected me. The girls, 5 daughters. No, Dad, it's another Hail Mary. Weren't you paying attention? Oh, I just wanted to see if you kids were. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it. Chores and schoolwork for the 8-year-old and 11-year-old. So I was right about that time that I was guessing the kids were. Minimum 20 minutes of book reading, 20 minutes of home math a day. Our schools don't give textbooks or homework. Our 4-year-old is a challenge as well. Our oldest has always embraced extra work. Keeping tidy rooms has been a struggle. Okay, again, you come down to, you're making a judgment here. All right, is it, in your opinion, too regimented? You got too much going on, too much structure. You don't have enough flexibility in it. Our 4-year-old is a challenge as well. That means he's given him behavior problems. So that would be unrelated. Okay. Oh, here we go. So the oldest is 14. So you got 14, 11, 8, and 4. 14-year-old started high school grade 9, involved in junior council, swim, rowing, AP classes. She's excelling. However, her home chores are slipping. Should we scale back her school involvement? The more well-rounded she is, the better her chances at scholarships. Well, again, maybe some flexibility in the chores, depending upon, she comes home at 8 o'clock and you're thinking, okay, we still got to get in the rosary, we still got to get in your chores, we still got to, you got to have some flexibility in this. I think if you say to yourself, okay, this is the schedule, this is the schedule we adhere to, this is the way we're going to do it, you could exhaust yourself. How do you deal with an explosive 4-year-old boy? I've read your book, Discipline That Lasts a Lifetime, and we implement daily. Unfortunately, I lose patience and get angry over his 20 to 30-minute screaming meltdowns. See, when I hear parents tell me this, when you got a 3 or 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid, and unfortunately a lot of times what's happening, you got 8, 9, 10-year-old kids, melting down that long, I got to know what's going on during the meltdown. Is the parent trying to reason with the kid to get him calmed down? Are they threatening? I think the best thing you do is you establish a very significant consequence to a meltdown. Maybe you tell him, the longer it goes on, here's what's going to happen. Or maybe you say you have no privileges for 2 days every time you melt down like that. Okay. This past year, he doesn't listen. He whines about being in church, doesn't focus, distracted. Consequences have not worked. I have rarely seen consequences not work. Much of the time they don't work is because they're not consistent enough and they're not impactful enough. If he throws a 30-minute meltdown and he has to sit on the steps for 4 minutes, that isn't going to do it. Not going to happen. It's got to be something that he sees as a significant consequence. Maybe he'll lose every privilege he asks for the next day. Now, obviously, this is not therapy. If I would explore all the dynamics that are going on. But I will tell you this. For me, in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families I've seen, it is rare for a 4-year-old not to be controlled. When that happens, when he's out of control, when he's hitting, he's screaming, He's fitting. He's doing all kinds of things. He's not listening. He's doing all kinds of stuff. Unless there's some kind of dramatic change going on in his life. But otherwise, if this is a normal, stable family environment, and this kid is doing these sorts of things, almost always you can look deeper into the way the parents are handling it. Even though, and again, 50% of the time, the parents who come in my office will say, we're handling it really well. As they see it. They're not lying to me. As they size up their discipline skills, their parenting, they're thinking, I can't believe this. I mean, all that we're doing, and this kid is still getting worse or not getting any better. Obviously, something's wrong with the kid. Much of the time, nothing is wrong with the kid. You have to get a much up-close and personal look at the way they're dealing with this. When you got a kid throwing 30-minute fits at age 4, something is going on in the dynamic between the parent and the kid. Now, Dad says, I lose patience and get angry, which means at the least Dad is sending a message that, son, you got me. You're making my life miserable. That's a payoff. That's a payoff. That means a 4-year-old's in control. And that's reinforcing in and of itself. So, all of that is to say, hopefully, that will be helpful. As you know, we are from Canada. Do you offer virtual sessions? Well, not according to Canadian dollars. No, I see people in my office in North Canton, Ohio. All right, I got about 20 seconds till the music starts. So I will mention this to this gentleman. Hold on a second. That's a lot of questions there, too. This is Dr. Ray. This is ePerson Monday. This is The Doctor Is In. Monday through Friday. Co-production of EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and Ave Maria Radio Communications. And I want to thank Eric Dumont and Andrew Kuchek for making this program happen. Very nice to have you with me here. Dr. Ray Guarendi with my producer man, Andrew Kuchak. This is ePerson Monday, which is about halfway through the program. It goes so fast. Hi, Ray. We recently lost our 41-year-old son to brain cancer. No matter how old your child is, if they pass away before you, that's a blow. It's quite a blow. Because in our minds, we hope and pray that that's not the order. We also take care of my 96-year-old mother, who is a typical stubborn Italian. Well, our writer here is also Italian. I could tell by her last name. And I certainly don't take offense at that. I hate the thought of putting her in a home. But we are going through all of the layers of grief. In other words, this has rocked their world, losing their son to brain cancer. And at her age, I'm guessing she can become very self-centered. Well, I don't know how that's defined, but she goes on. I would have horrible guilt if I did that. In other words, what she's meaning, she's leading up to the fact that they're getting close to having to place mom somewhere. She's 96. So at 96 is quite unusual if you're not frail, physically frail, and a very high percentage that there is some dementia. My husband says we've had her with us for 31 years since my dad passed away. So Dad passed away when Mom was 65. So Dad was probably not that old. How could we put her in a home at this stage? How do we deal with this? Hello there. How are you? Hey, Father. Father just walking in. I'm sorry, I just got interrupted by a priest. When a priest comes in, you gotta stand up, so I'm going to leave the microphone here. How do we deal with this? Father, stay with me till next break. I got about 5 minutes, and I got to take a break. So, it is going to be a matter of probably being forced upon you. At 96, you say, how do we put her in a home? Now, I know the way you describe it, in a home, makes it sound like we are dropping her. We're pushing her out. If you recognize it as some type of assisted environment, whether in fact she can be maintained in an assisted living center with assisted living situation with her own apartment-like setup with some ongoing support, or given, and again, I do not know her level of functioning. I have no idea. But if in fact she's so confused that she takes constant supervision, or she's dangerous. She can wander off. She can put something metal in the microwave. She can leave a burner on, whatever it might be. When my mother-in-law, was in the later stages of her dementia and she was still trying to live at home, she would frequently get confused, and in getting the big dog to obey her, she thought she was spraying water. And she wasn't. She was spraying a chemical. But she was confused. So it's going to come down to making a decision that if you don't do this, Mom is in danger or you are in danger. And that's what will be the natural outcome. If you say, no matter what, she's going to stay here, we will supervise her 24/7, certainly you can do that. Until, for example, she falls or she gets up in the middle of the night. Something may force you to make this decision. And what I would say to you is you can't feel guilty about that. You had her with you for 31 years. A beautiful thing to do for your mom. No question about that. And at some point, as many people have to do, and we had to do that with my mother-in-law, at some point, it is near impossible to monitor their safety and to monitor your safety. And if you say, well, that's okay, because if we would do something like that, it would be the worst thing, so therefore we're going to just allow something bad to happen. Most people don't make that choice. They don't say, well, she wanders off, we'll go get her, we'll try to find her. No, most people say we can't allow her to do something self-destructive or destructive to us. Now, unfortunately, much of the time, well, I don't know how much of the time, my experience is a percentage of the time, there is no decision to be made. You can't say, well, we've decided this is the best direction to go. Most of the time, I can say most of the time, for those who are elderly and in some stage of dementia, they don't want to leave their house. Not at all. I've only seen a small percentage of them saying, I need to live elsewhere because I can no longer live here. If they're living with you, that is. Or if you have some kind of supervision with them all the time. They want to stay in their house. And at some point, generally, the confusion is enough that they don't fully realize where they are, or that they've changed the situation, or if they do realize it, it fades quickly. When my mother-in-law came to us, there was a power outage at her house. Now, this was before that she had spent several months afterwards in her own home. However, my wife and I thought She had had a power outage in the neighborhood of 5 days. So she came with us for 5 days. She totally forgot she had a house. She didn't want to return to her house because she didn't remember she had a house. However, other family members made the decision, and she was returned to her home, where she lived with a lot of supervision for another several months, until it got to the point where all the supervision in the world couldn't guarantee her safety. Those are the circumstances that are happening more and more as people are living longer and longer. Old age is a relatively common thing now in our society. And we tend to forget that in much of human history, old age was reserved to probably a minority of people. Welcome back. This is Dr. Ray Guarendi. Program Doctor is In. Thank you for joining me here. This is E-Person Monday, where we're addressing the E-Persons. This came a while back. I'm looking at this. Yeah, not that far back. Several weeks. My daughter, now 19, called my husband and I to say that a young man, also age 19, asked her to be his girlfriend. We've had the talk about premarital relations in the past, and she says she knows why it's wrong and the beauty of waiting. So far, so good. However, unfortunately, she told us she already had premarital relations one time, but not with this boy. I asked her, I don't know what exactly Mom asked her, how do you broach that subject, but Mom did. And she told me she didn't want to lie and told me what happened. This happened last year. She went to confession. I asked her about her thoughts. She said it was wrong and she doesn't plan to do so again. Mom says, we will see. My question, Dr. Ray. This young man, age 19, is not Catholic. My daughter says he's a Christian, but he doesn't know what his faith is. So I take that to mean he has no specific faith. They've been friends for a year, and I've never met him. They're at college. My husband and I, who are Catholic and practice the faith, have told her that finding a Catholic spouse who loves God before you and brings you to God is necessary for a relationship to work, meaning resolving conflict, getting to know each other, praying for each other, having the same values. My daughter says he's a good person, kind, funny. I told her there are many guys like that. You don't have to date him. Ask yourself a question. Does this person bring me to God? Now, I'm going to interrupt myself here a second. Typically, this is the conflict, where on one hand, someone says, the ideal is that I would meet someone to share my faith. On the other hand, there's a lot of admirable qualities in this individual. And I'm a little nervous, and I think rightfully so, about meeting someone who does share my faith. So therefore, I'm gonna make some flexible compromises and accept that he's a decent human being, she's a decent human being, and hopefully we'll grow closer together. Aha! Now here is the crux of the matter. My husband and I have encouraged our daughter to attend the weekly faith group at college. Her answer is, and I think this is significant, if we keep talking about it, it only makes her not want to do any of that. Dr. Ray, this was before she even met this young man. All right, so you see what's unfolding here? That it sounds like this young lady does not have the same motive to meet a faithful Catholic young man as her parents would like for her. And it sounds like some of that may be based upon she's getting a little wobbly in the faith herself. I've reached out to the Focus leaders, and one of them has texted her several times, and she hasn't responded to any texts. Now, see, now once again, confirming that this young lady, as so many in college, are drifting from the faith. And she's met a guy that really doesn't have much faith, but that's not as critical to her because she's slipping in her own faith. We asked our daughter, why don't you want to attend a group prayer meeting? And she said she prays in church. She's okay with that. Dr. Ray, I don't know how much I can force a college kid. We've said to all our college kids in the beginning, you're not getting grocery money if you don't attend Mass. So some didn't get the grocery money for that week, but now they go to Mass. Well, a parent can make the conditions that they wish. I think this is definitely one of the high-level risks of going away to college for young faith-filled kids. Unless they go to a college that is in line with the parents' upbringing of the child and what the child is bringing to the college with their faith, there is going to be a very good percentage of the time the kids are going to drift from it. Well, I'm going to skip over that. I want to know how to respond to our daughter dating a guy who's not Catholic, and she does not know what faith he is after knowing him a year. I guess I would ask her, it doesn't matter to you. Does it matter to you at all? That's the crux of the question. See, I think mom is assuming that it really, really matters to this girl that he be Catholic, and she can't understand why daughter is accepting him not being Catholic, and not only that, but having no faith at all. And I think that is related to the daughter drifting from her faith. She does not know what faith he is after knowing a year because she says it never came up. She's bobbing and a-weaving with her parents' questions because it certainly sounds like she's saying, I'm away at college, I like the guy, and I don't know what else they're doing. Mom says, I don't believe that it never came up or that she doesn't care to know. I'm going to say, first of all, I agree with you. I don't believe it never came up, but I do agree she doesn't care to know. Can you advise my husband on how to talk about this? Well, I think you have. And I think it's not a matter of talking about it. I think it's a matter of your daughter is convinced that she doesn't need to look at it this way. And why it's important to go to a church prayer group? Well, if it is, but it sounds like she is not going to go. What do we say when we ask her why she chooses to date a non-Catholic? Just ask her. Up to this point, before college, you've said to us many times, if an individual is Catholic or even a Christian, it would be the number one consideration, and now it's apparently not. So what's changed? And I think if she's honest with you, she's going to tell you, I've changed. Now, at that point, I don't know what the future holds. And I don't know how you'll decide to handle this. Some parents just simply say, we let it play out. Other parents will say, well, no, I'm gonna make some decisions regarding my financial support, how much, how little, etc. That's all up to the parent. But you can't force the faith on someone who says, at this point in my life, not interested. Dr. Ray. Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In, last segment of E-Person Monday. Hello, Dr. Ray. My husband and I have been really struggling with our only child, age 7. It is getting us super down. And we are at wit's end figuring out what to do next. We bought your book. It's a good first step. Discipline That Lasts a Lifetime. That is my biggest selling book, by the way. We've implemented many of your suggestions in terms of house rules and consequences. Now, here's something parents say an awful lot after they, either before or after they go on to describe a litany of frustrations. For the most part, he honestly is a great kid. Okay. But our struggle lies with his ability to literally not carry out said consequences, like writing essays, even though he knows he's on blackout. Today, see, this is the kind of stuff that shakes parents up when kids do this. He sat at his desk at home for 6 straight hours and didn't have anything to show for it. We sent him to bed without his friends, I'm assuming they mean stuffed animals, and sang him no songs and read no books. But this has been 2 days in a row with little or no results. I have never met a kid so stubborn, and I wonder where we went wrong and what else we can do. Any other suggestions? Or, Dr. Ray, have you encountered this before? You want it to the nearest 100? We would very much love to hear back from you with any help. Signed, 2 very exhausted and anxiety-ridden parents. Well, the anxiety-ridden part, that's significant because they're figuring, oh, my gosh, we're messing our kid up. Oh, my gosh, we got a kid that's just messed up. What's going on? Why isn't this working? We read Dr. Ray's book. It should have worked its magic. It will work its magic. Here's the problem. Depending on a kid, parents underestimate how long it takes. I would have said, okay, he sat at his desk for 6 hours. I'm not going to do that with him. I'm going to say, you can get up. You just have no privileges at all until you write your sentences. Now, he may go 2, 3, 4, 5 days. I've had kids go a week, 2 weeks. They do this until they finally realize, uh-oh. Now, see, parents don't realize what privileges are. Privileges are not your favorite foods. Privileges are toast and soup, onion soup. Privileges are if we go out to eat, you're not eating, you're going to watch. You make a sandwich before you go. Privileges are you don't have your favorite hoodie. You don't have your favorite shirt. Privileges are you can't go outside. Privileges are you can't do just about anything. Now, I don't know. I tell you, I have not met a 7-year-old who can say, I don't care. I don't care. Do it. 3 months, 5 months. I don't care. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. But I think what's happening, the parents are getting frustrated, which means you get angry, which means you yell and scream, which means you threaten, which means you plead, which means you bargain, which means you negotiate. The calmer you can be about this, saying, hey, son, you don't have to write those sentences. That's okay. You just don't have anything until you do. That's it. He's got to see that you're not upset by this. You're not having him tagged at some kid at age 19 that's got a parole officer. That's what parents do. They look at this kind of stubbornness and they say, oh, what's this going to lead to when he's 23? And then it shakes you all up. Instead of just looking at it like this is a 7-year-old who's just decided. Now, it's never this simple, by the way. It is never this simple. If you were in my office, I would start peeling back the layers. I would start saying, well, what do you do when he does this? Well, how does he respond when you do this? Well, when you do this, what do you think is going to happen? What does he say when you do this? Well, when he says that, how much does that shake you up? If you tried this, and what happens when you try that? You got to just explore. You got to dig and dig. And it's really not complex. You got to discern the dynamics of the situation. And almost always, and I've said this so many times on this show, almost always there is stuff that the parents are unwittingly doing or not doing that is making this go on. But they think they've got a demon seed. What is wrong with this kid? When in fact, most of the time, nothing's wrong. The kid is playing out how he perceives the parents. And again, here's the other thing. As I explore this, I often find that this is a long-standing pattern, so that the kid has learned over the last years to look at the parents and go, hey, I don't have to listen to you. You have any authority on me. Try it. Watch what I do. If that perception is built up, then you're going to get a battle when you try to enforce discipline. For a kid to sit at that desk for 6 hours and not do anything is saying much about how he perceives his parents. I'll outlast them. I'll show him. So, read Discipline That Lasts a Lifetime again. This is Dr. A. Thank you so very much for joining me. Good Lord permitting. See you tomorrow. Walk with God.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.